Well, going way back, when you were a little boy, what did you want to be when you grow up?
I wanted to be a movie director. I wanted
Seriously?
to be a movie, yeah,
I mean,
I was 8 years old.
From what age?
No, I was 8 years old. I walked out of the Rafael Theater on 4th Street in Santa Fe, and I'd just seen Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, and I walked out and I got in my dad's 65 Impala, and I slid over these gigantic seats in front of this steel dashboard. And he said, "What did you think?" Because he loved the movie. And I said, "It was amazing." And he said, "So, what do you think about it? And I said, "I want to make movies." And he was like, "Great." And we drove home, and literally this is 69, so it was fall of 69. From that point on, my entire life has been, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, I took film classes, and in high school, I couldn't take film, so I worked in a movie theater, and I worked at a local television station, shooting ENG stuff. I did plays, built sets, did lighting, and basically just said, however I have to cobble, took photography, and kind of cobbled a curriculum.
What do you think it was about Butch Cassidy that did it for you?
Yeah, it was the transportive. I guess it was quite specifically, I'd seen a documentary on the making of it, and I'd seen it before I saw the movie, and it's kind of a great documentary. It's narrated by George Roy Hill. It's actually on one of the special edition DVDs. They only make like 8 of those for every movie, so it's hard to keep up. But there was a documentary that was on CBS or NBC, but it was all the behind the scenes stuff. It was narrated by George Roy Hill, who had this great kind of pragmatic voice of, this is why we did what we did, and this is why I cast these people, and here's what I like about them. And I sort of thought, I guess it was the fact that it illuminated for me that movies didn't happen in real time. I was like, I always thought if the movie was 2 hours long, it probably took, 3-4 days to shoot that thing, I thought, because that was stupid, I was 8. And so so it was the first time that I realized that, my God, they're shipping all these horses to, Wyoming and shooting that shot, and then they're going to, Arizona to get that. And it was the first time it had ever occurred to me that there was this incredible circus and all of this time and thought and preparation. I thought, that sounds like a gigantic waste of time. Sign me up.
Did you have any other artistic inclinations? Did you draw? Did you write stories? What else did you do?
My dad was a cartoonist for a while when he was young, and so he taught me how to draw, and I pretty much drew. I would sit in my room from about 4 years old on. I could sit in my bedroom for 10 hours and draw, and my parents would be like, "He's drawing."
What did you draw? What kind of stuff?
Just
Was
everything,
it
man.
perverse,
It was
violent action stuff, or what?
Yeah. No, it's that whole thing where you're sitting there, it's a kid, and you're kind of hunched over, you're going, you drew like planes and Strata Fortress,
Because I know a lot of Spielberg and Lucas were big drawers, and a lot of people did that at that age.
Yeah, I guess it kind of comes with you have to think in terms of you're thinking in terms of 3 dimensions as you're staging stuff, but ultimately you're reducing everything down to 2 dimensions. So you have to kind of think in terms of the edge of the space that you have. So I think it probably helps in some way.
Did you have a lot of like-minded friends, or were you a loner?
No, this is Marin County, this is San Anselmo, Marin County Bay Area at San Francisco. Between I moved there in 65. My parents moved there in 65, and I left in 76. So you're talking about THX 1138 was made at the Marin County Civic Center. The Godfather was shot on Shady Lane and Ross. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. All the pre-production for The Candidate. Most of Downhill Racer was at least, kind of prepped and edited out of the Bay Area. The Conversation. I mean, all these movies were being made. You know, Phil Kaufman, he did Body Snatchers, and I think he did one other film in San Francisco. I can't remember what it was. But it was a real burgeoning. I mean, everyone on my block wanted to be a director. I mean, George Lucas was my neighbor, so it was kind of like you were going, you know. I remember a story I have to tell because it's sort of indicative of this time in this place. There was a rock that was this, had this sort of promenade that looked out over my friend Scott Kittleman, my next door neighbor. It was Lucas's house, and then it was Scott's, and then there was this little promenade, and then there was our house. And my friend Chris and my friend Scott, we were 12. Yeah, I guess we were like 12 or 13 years old. Must have been. And we're sitting on this rock, and we're looking out over this hedge, and you can see Lucas's house. And it's this giant white house, Victorian, very beautiful, giant grounds, pool, and poplar trees and stuff. And we're sitting there, and we're looking, and I turned to my friend Scott, who, you know, knew the Lucases pretty well, Marsha. And I said, so what's George up to? What's he doing? These are like, we're 13 years old. And he says, well, he's off in London doing this movie, The Star Wars, because it was called The Star Wars at the time. And I said, really?
Always drop the.
Yeah, exactly. When in doubt. And my friend Chris turns and he goes, really? Science fiction? Didn't he learn his lesson with THX 1138? And I was thought, so awesome, you know. Had we been able to blog.
Just in the whole mix of this, when did you first see 2001, and what was your reaction to that?
I was about 7.
7? Oh.
Yeah, my dad took me to, my father was loved movies. I mean, spent an inordinate amount of his youth in movie theaters. Had a very unhappy childhood and spent a lot of time sort of away from dysfunction by going to the movie theater. And so he loved movies, and he used to, and we had I mean, on the weekends, you know, time away for us, you know, was not, we didn't go and play baseball. We would go to the movies, and he would say, oh, you got to see this. You haven't seen Rear Window? I was like, Dad, I'm 4. And so he took me, I was about 7 years old, and he took me to a double feature in San Francisco. And it was a big 70 millimeter, it was double feature with Yellow Submarine and 2001: A Space Odyssey, and it was awesome. And I was 7, and I'm sitting there, and I'm watching this thing, and I'm going, you know.
You got, contact highs just by being in that theater?
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, in San Francisco in the '60s, so it was. So you know, the first movie, I'm like, we all live in the Yellow Submarine, you know, it's great. And then all of a sudden, the second movie starts, and it's 20 minutes, no one's talking, and it's just monkeys. And I turned to him and I said, you know, Dad, no one's talking. And he looks at me and he smiles and he goes, that's the point. And I said, oh, okay, fine. It's the point that no one's talking. But I remember, you know, having my mind fairly blown, just kind of, because again, you, as a child, you look at stuff and you sort of think, they're trying to, I mean, they're preparing me for something. Like, they're preparing me for the future. Like, I remember watching that film and going, okay, I have to be prepared for space travel. And then I have to, because most of when you're a kid, you know, when you're a student in school, they're showing you movies or whatever. It's like preparing you for, you know, dissection or whatever. This is how to dissect frogs, or here's what human reproduction is, or whatever. They're preparing you for stuff. So I remember watching this movie and going, I'm being prepared for space travel. And kind of going, wow. And then it got to the end and I was like, I'm being prepared for the afterlife. I don't know that I need this at 7, but